At this moment, everyone in China feels an incredible sense of excitement because after 6 years of exploration, their geologists have discovered a super oil field in the desert with a total estimated value of $600 billion. The reserves of this oil and gas resource exceed 1 billion tons, making it one of the largest known oil fields currently under development in the world. The exploration area covers a staggering 17,000 square kilometers, equivalent to the size of 14 Los Angeles city districts. However, it is extremely difficult for anyone to dig treasures out of the desert. The oil layers in this desert field are generally buried at depths of 7,500 to 10,000 meters underground, with the thinnest layers only 0.6 meters thick. This is a typical case of ultra-deep and ultra-thin reserves, which poses tremendous challenges to drilling technology. So, how will engineers extract oil from several kilometers beneath the desert? And for China, what does this billion-ton super oil field mean? If you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. This is the Taklamakan Desert in Xinjiang, China. It is the largest desert in the country and the second largest shifting desert in the world. Stretching about 1,000 kilometers from east to west and roughly 400 kilometers from north to south, it covers a total area of 330,000 square kilometers, about the same size as the entire nation of Germany. Standing here, all you can see is endless yellow sand and desolate landscapes, with almost no signs of life. But few people know that beneath this seemingly barren land, there lies a world-class treasure of energy resources. As early as the 1950s, Chinese geologists began exploring for oil and natural gas in this vast sea of sand. At that time, China did not yet have an oil field of its own in the true sense, and most of its energy supply was heavily dependent on imports. In order to change this situation, generations of Chinese geologists braved the scorching heat, endured wind, sand, and drought, and persisted in working under extremely harsh conditions, just to discover oil and gas resources that truly belonged to China. Decades later, their efforts finally paid off. Between 1989 and 1992, a series of important oil and gas fields were successively discovered in the desert, transforming the Taklamakan from a dead desert into a land of energy hope. Statistics show that in the past decade alone, China has discovered 17 major oil fields here, with reserves of more than 100 million tons each, along with 21 large gas fields containing over 100 billion cubic meters of reserves. The estimated total oil reserves of these fields reach as high as 8.6 billion tons, while the proven natural gas reserves have reached 2.5 trillion cubic meters. But even that is not the most remarkable part. Chinese geologists have made an even more astonishing discovery: a super deep oil and gas treasure buried beneath the Taklamakan Desert, with reserves exceeding 1 billion tons. At that moment, everyone cheered for this incredible news. As far as I know, this super deep oil and gas treasure with reserves of over 1 billion tons is called the Fuman oil field. Its oil-bearing area exceeds 17,000 square kilometers, and its total oil and gas resources are more than 1 billion tons, making it one of the largest desert oil fields discovered in China in the past decade. Currently, the world's largest oil field is Saudi Arabia's Ghawar oil field, with reserves as high as 11.2 billion tons and an annual output of 280 million tons. By comparison, the scale of the Fuman oil field is less than 1/10 of that. But given China's current annual oil consumption of about 350 million tons, the reserves of this field alone would be enough to supply the country for 2 to 3 years. However, most of the extractable oil and gas resources in the Fuman oil field are buried at depths of around 7,000 to 9,000 meters underground. This depth is almost equivalent to an upside-down Mount Everest. Finding oil and gas reservoirs within such fault zones is as difficult as standing at sea level and trying to pick an apple that is hidden at the height of an underground Everest. What's more, these oil and gas resources are distributed across a series of fault zones of different lengths and sizes, resembling apple trees deeply buried underground. In such extreme environments of high temperature and high pressure, figuring out how to extract oil and gas safely and efficiently has become a hard challenge for every engineering team. To tackle this highly complex geological structure, Chinese engineers have specifically developed some of the world's most advanced exploration and drilling technologies. The first technology is called ultra-deep seismic exploration technology for large desert regions. Simply put, it is like giving the Earth a CT scan in the heart of the desert to draw an underground treasure map of oil and gas. This technology requires engineers to first design a large-scale acquisition network in the desert, setting up signal generators and receivers at different grid points. Signals are then sent deep underground, and the reflected signals, carrying information about underground strata, structures, faults, and even cavities, are collected. After analysis, processing, and interpretation of the seismic waves, engineers can gradually restore a detailed map of where oil is hidden beneath the surface. In this process, two key technologies were developed. First, three-dimensional imaging of ultra-deep reservoirs, and second, fine characterization of fractured and cavernous bodies. With these advancements, the accuracy of fault identification at depths of 8,000 meters improved from 30 meters to 15 meters. They also enable 360-degree scanning of underground strata, making oil and gas reservoirs buried deeper than 8,000 meters much more transparent. Of course, extracting oil from underground is impossible without drilling technology. For this, Chinese engineers developed ultra-deep, fast, and efficient drilling technology, which acts like a key to the depths of the Earth, opening up a highway for oil and gas extraction. But along this 8,000-meter treasure hunting journey, obstacles such as volcanic rocks, fractures, and high-pressure water layers can appear at any time. If not handled properly, all previous efforts could be wasted. To tackle these challenges, Chinese engineers adopted a geological engineering integrated approach and created a technology called dynamic seismic profile correction. This allows them to predict potential problems along the drilling path, identify obstacles in advance, and adjust the drilling trajectory in time. Notably, to overcome the difficulties of ultra-deep rocks being extremely hard and strong, making rock breaking inefficient, the Chinese team independently developed a hybrid drill bit that combines the advantages of roller cone bits and diamond bits, as well as the first set of high-precision measurement while drilling instruments capable of withstanding temperatures of 200 degrees Celsius and pressures above 200 MPa. These breakthroughs have made efficient rock breaking and rapid drilling possible. As early as 2020, China carried out its first drilling operation in the Fuman oil field. Engineers spent more than 50 days completing the first well, which reached a depth of 7,660 meters, targeting a marine carbonate formation that dates back about 440 million years. On April 8, 2020, this well underwent a production test, yielding a daily output of 624 cubic meters of crude oil and 370,000 cubic meters of natural gas. Although this was already a breakthrough, at such depths the expansion of oil production remained relatively limited. By 2023, China launched another drilling project known as Guola 3C. After 214 days, the well successfully reached 9,396 meters, setting a new record for the deepest horizontal oil well in Asia. This marked a key breakthrough for China in ultra-deep oil and gas exploration and development at depths of around 9,000 meters. But this was far from China's limit. A year later, another well named Mansion 807 reached more than 8,800 meters in just 99 days, while Mansion 805 was drilled to over 9,200 meters in only 112 days. Both wells set national speed records in this field. As of April 17, 2025, the Fuman oil field has completed a total of 144 ultra-deep wells over 8,000 meters, with cumulative oil and gas production surpassing 20 million tons. According to the plan, the Fuman oil field is expected to achieve an annual oil and gas equivalent output of 5 million tons by 2025 and exceed 10 million tons by 2030. However, in the vast Taklamakan Desert, the Fuman oil field is actually just one of 32 super oil and gas fields. The proven oil and gas resources in the Tarim Basin now total about 17.8 billion tons, including 7.5 billion tons of oil and 13 trillion cubic meters of natural gas. More importantly, around 85% of the oil reserves here have not yet been proven. So what exactly does 17.8 billion tons mean? The world's current annual oil consumption is about 5 billion tons. Based on this figure, the oil and gas resources in the Tarim Basin alone could supply the entire world for 3.5 years. If these resources were effectively developed, they could completely transform China's energy landscape. But the question remains, why doesn't China fully exploit the oil buried under this desert? Globally, the Middle East is undoubtedly the region richest in desert oil resources. But compared with it, the Taklamakan Desert poses far greater challenges for oil extraction. The oil reservoirs here are scattered, uneven in depth, and a unique natural environment creates unprecedented difficulties for drilling equipment, construction, and technology application. According to existing data, many of the oil layers in the Taklamakan Desert are buried at depths greater than 10,000 meters. In contrast, most oil fields in the Middle East have reservoirs buried only 300 to 500 meters deep. This enormous difference in depth makes the cost of deep drilling in the desert potentially more than 10 times higher. And of course, time costs also become an invisible but critical constraint on development. But the real challenge is not just drilling deep. The geological structure of the Tarim Basin can almost be described as a labyrinth, with oil and gas hidden in extremely tiny fractures. Traditional surveying and mapping technologies struggle to pinpoint them accurately, which greatly affects both exploration and extraction efficiency. When drilling ultra-deep wells at depths of 8,000 meters, advancing half a meter per hour is already considered fast. Sometimes, progress is only a few centimeters in 10 minutes. In the past, drilling a single 8,000-meter well in China often took more than 200 days. Although in recent years, thanks to technological innovation and continuous upgrades in drilling equipment, efficiency has improved to the point where such wells can now be completed in just over 100 days. Overall, this is still not enough to support large-scale development of the Taklamakan in a way that makes economic sense. What's even more concerning is the presence of a highly dangerous gas underground, hydrogen sulfide. This gas is extremely toxic, and even a slight leak could trigger a severe accident, not only endangering the lives of workers, but also causing irreparable damage to the surrounding ecological environment. This makes the entire oil development process even more complex and dangerous. Since the beginning of the 21st century, global oil consumption has continued to rise. With its population of 1.4 billion, China has long been one of the world's largest oil importers. According to industry forecasts, China's oil consumption will keep growing in the coming years, with the increase expected to approach 20%. For this reason, China is set to further accelerate the exploration and development of oil and gas resources in an effort to strengthen its energy self-sufficiency. But the prerequisite for large-scale development of desert oil fields is that the technologies must be fully mature and the extraction process must be safe. So, what do you think? To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.